Hello, everyone. Good afternoon. Welcome to class. I'm very excited to be with you today. This is the last lecture of this semester. It's my not my last lecture. I have one more after, but could be the last one you have as well. A lot of people finished last week, so I'm delighted to be here and completing the last subjects that we need to cover for the final. First, do you have any questions before I start the class? By starting to talk about distribution, because we didn't complete the distribution. After this, I will talk about communication, the last P of the marketing mix, and I will finish with a recap on the competitive strategies. Strategies are very important, and so that's why I spend so much time talking about these. I hope you were able to upload your group report. That this was due just right now. I see it's 4 o'clock, so it was due. I guess. Oh, it's 4:01, so that's it. It was due at 4 o'clock. Hopefully, you had one person per group upload. You didn't have to all upload; just one was enough. If you're having trouble uploading, you can always email me. You don't have to email me. It's only in the case that you had problems. All right. So distribution, I will go very quickly on what we discussed, the fact that you have to transfer the cost of distribution. Distribution is a specific job and there's a cost. And if you're a manufacturer, you don't have to cost of distribution, and you may let this cost the cost of someone else. You may also distribute yourself, so that's called direct distribution, direct channels, or you could use some intermediaries, and these are called indirect channels. We spent some time talking about one of the main strategy, which is the push and pull. Pull strategy is when you are actually talking to the customers directly, and essentially you're spending a lot of money advertising to your customers, and your customers are knowing about your brand, and because they know of your brand, they want your brand. And once they discover that that's what they want, they may even think that they need your brand. Then you have a customer that is very motivated to get your product, and because they're motivated, they're going to look for it. And since they're looking for it, the distributors will want to carry your product because they know customers are looking for it. For the most part, distributors don't like to advertise. Distributors are not like to sit in the right place and have the customers find what they want from those locations. Now with the search engine, that's what people do as well, is sometimes they don't run into the product, they actually seek the product. And that's the benefit also of social media, which is people are being bombarded of information and brand impact. And because they are facing those brands, they want to eventually learn more about the brand, or even further buy this brand to try it and so forth. So that's the pull strategy. The pull strategy is the most persuasive, the most impactful way, but it's also the most expensive way. The least expensive way in general are the push strategy, which is that you motivate the distribution network to actually carry your product. So in that situation, you give them incentives, financial incentives. Sometimes you pay the distribution to carry your product, and if they sell it, they pay you. Or sometimes you participate in their expenses, or sometimes you give them heavy discounts, two for the price of one, and then they carry this discount to the customers. Best case scenario is to do push and pull at the same time, and obviously that requires a lot of resources, but if you have the resources, that would be the best way to get to be successful. The other strategies, so sub-strategies, not the corporate strategy, but the strategy at the P level, but they are still strategies, they are not tactics, are the three basic distribution strategy, which is intensive distribution, where you sell everywhere, selective distribution, where you sell in specific places, and you think it cannot be everywhere, so just a few places will be where you will be carrying the product. And exclusive distribution is where you will be selling it to just a few of the distributors. So an exclusive distribution usually requires a contract, where there's a contract which determines a specific location, a specific time, and a specific milestone or objective for the exclusive distributor to keep this exclusivity. So an exclusive distributor would be someone that has the reputation of being able to carry this product. It's a product that not everyone wants. It's a specialty product, and there the customers will know that they can only get it from there, and there's no need to look for somewhere else. And normally, and if this distributor does not belong to the manufacturer, in that situation, you would have a contract of 3 years, with some objectives, and if the objectives are met, you extend this to more times as long as the objectives are met. So the objectives are sales objective or purchase objective in that situation, in the sense that the exclusive distributor will have a minimum order that they have to purchase every month, every year, in order to keep this exclusivity. The benefit is that you know that someone does not carry other brands. Sometimes that's other elements of the contract, is you have certain competitors that you don't want your distributors to carry. But sometimes you don't have this power. So there's a bargaining power when it comes to distribution that is very important, is who has the weight to request what. So when you have distribution, you have many different groups. You have the conventional marketing channel of distribution, where you have different intermediaries performing different tasks. The manufacturer is producing, the wholesaler just wholesaling, and the retailer just selling directly to the consumers. Or you could have some level of integration, where you could have the manufacturer who also is a retailer, or the manufacturer who is also a wholesaler, or could be all of these, because it's all integrated. So that's important to know, because when you think in terms of distribution, you also think about the moving of the goods from one place to the other. So there's the inbound and the outbound. So the quality supply chain is the concept that you need to make sure that you are correctly and the most effective way, the just-in-time organized way of getting the supply. So that's the inbound. You receive all the raw materials in order to produce the goods. And the outbound is the manufacturer being concerned about the channel of distribution. So inbound plus outbound makes the logistics. The logistics is not just getting the product or shipping the product, it's the combination of both. The major functions is within the distribution system is that there's someone who's going to be making some purchase orders. So they're going to buy the product from you. They're going to care of the logistics for this product to go from you, the manufacturer, to the different hub of the channel of distribution. But they're also going to do the same type of order processing with their customers, being the wholesalers, being the retailers, being the customers, if they are also selling directly as a distributor. They will also be in the logistics, caring for doing the inventory, storing the product, insuring the product, worrying about the dispatching of the product, holding stocks in different areas, making sure that there is not too much stock in one area versus on the other area. And they will be worrying about the different methods of distribution. And they will be carrying these costs, which is a cost of buying the product, financing this product, storing the product, and to some extent promoting this product. So as I said, they don't like to do that. Some do more than less. I mean, if you're thinking about big five, they will be doing less promoting than if you're thinking about big sporting goods or some other more specialty type of stores, like the Foot Locker or such. They will be spending more money in promoting it, because they would have a higher margin and a more direct service-oriented relationship with the customers, where the customers will go to these places because they would expect the people in there to know more about the products than just people putting them on the shelves. So what are the methods of transportation? You have the rail, the truck, the water, the pipeline, and the air. All of these are not equal. They all exist because they have all kinds of benefits and specialty type of products that they would be moving. It all depends on multiple factors, such as how much you want to spend, how quickly do you need it to be delivered, how much are you working on tight deadlines, what kind of product that you're selling. I mean, if you're selling gas, you're not going to transport gas in airlines. You're going to transport gas in pipelines, because that's the most common way to move gas. The area that might be served, not served, and also the flexibility in handling the product. So the flexibility in quickly coming and picking it up, or the different schedules, issues that you may have with the products. So all of these different variables will have an incidence on which one of the method of distribution that you will be using, which is most appropriate for shipping this product. So now, what are the strategies within the distribution, thinking about the two main methods of distribution, which is retailing and wholesaling? So first, what is retailing? retailing includes all the activities involved in selling the goods or services directly to the final customers or for their personal use. So in that situation, a retailer sells products which is going to be used by the people, directly used by the people buying these products. So they are not buying this product in order to be selling this product again. They're buying this product because they will be using it themselves. So the retailers are primarily retailers and not involved in what's the opposite of this, which is wholesaling. Retailers have multiple functions, and the three functions are working on the assortments. So a retailer usually has a very wide assortment of products, but in very shallow depth. So the idea is that they're going to carry thousands of different products, but not many of these products. So they may be selling shoes, they may be selling food, they may be selling clothing, they may be selling home decoration, they may be selling pharmacies, they may be selling all of these, but just a few of these. So they're not going to be as good as a store that sells shoes, because a store that would sell shoes will have even more shoes, but just shoes, or a store just like a pharmacy store that would have more pharmacy, but just pharmacies. So they, in that situation, they're going to carry many of a few, which, as you will see, it's the opposite with a wholesaler, where a wholesaler is going to carry a few of different products, not many, but large number of these. So it's a wholesaler of material is going to have much more material than a store that would have some material. They would have just some, they would have maybe 15 different types of materials, but they are going to carry, sell them by yard, versus the wholesaler will have many more type of materials, but they're going to sell large quantities of each one of these. So they'll have 1,000 type of different materials, and they're going to be selling the minimum order be 200 yards, versus the retailer is going to have just a few. Unless you're a retailer of material, you may also have a lot of different material, maybe even more than the wholesaler in terms of the variation of type of materials, but you will sell easily by a few yards, versus the wholesaler does not want to sell just a few of one or two things. They want to sell 1,000 of one or two things. It's a different version of the quantity that they sell. Large quantities tends to be the wholesalers, small quantities tends to be the retailers. The service is also what varies between the retailers. Some retailers have very limited services, and some retailers have a large amount of services. So it's like going to Neiman Marcus versus going to Aldi. Aldi is almost no services. Neiman Marcus is the maximum number of services. Talking about the store atmosphere or the online store atmosphere is how do you feel? How much information do you have access? How many pictures are you able to see? You know, so one picture versus lots of pictures and videos and comments from other customers. And so in a store, it's the same. So it's like, do you have to get the ketchup out of the box, or is the ketchup well aligned in a very clean situation where there's just a few ketchups and a lot of space is around, versus a place that is very crowded? So the feel of the retail store is very important, because it goes with what's expected from the customers. There's nothing wrong with an inexpensive store which has a lot of people, where everything is displayed in a way that it's not very elegant, everything is basic. That's just one type of business model compared to another one where you would have more space, less product on the shelves. That doesn't mean one is better than the other. They are just directed for different type of customers. So different retailers are organized based on their relationship with the supply chain. Some retailers are independent and they are organized under some cooperation where they all buy together from the suppliers in order to have a bigger purchase power. So the independent family-owned stores where they all buy nails from the nail manufacturer as a cooperative. So instead of each buying independently, they all buy together through a cooperation. Or you have other organizations such as Home Depot, who owns some of the nail manufacturing, and therefore they are manufacturers at the same time they are distributors of their products, and other products that they don't belong, where they have just a distribution license with them. So the organization of the retailing is very important. The amount of services is important. And then the issue related to the depth of and the width of the product that they sell. So should they be very specialized? You know, you just sell scuba gear, or you just sell tennis equipment, or you just sell sports equipment from scuba to golf, tennis, basketball, baseball, and so forth. So and maybe you extend from this where you can even sell meat and sausages, and you can sell. So the width is very important, and it's obviously a different business depending on how width is your distribution and type of product that you're distributing. It's obviously easier to distribute less width, but if you distribute less width, you become more of a specialty store. And if you become a specialty store, sometimes you may not be as convenient. So retailing, the success of retailing for the past 200 years, it has been always the convenience. Is I go one places and I can buy peanut butter and get gas. And obviously that makes it easier for everyone because everyone is trying to get the convenience. Because of this convenience, people are selecting more and more convenience, and that also generates the fact that they're buying bigger and bigger brands, because the bigger brands are in larger volumes. They have usually not just one big brand, they own many big brands, and then eventually they're taking a big share of those retailers, and they get more bargaining power in those retailers. And so the smaller brands have a harder time in getting in there. And the customers are not realizing is if you go in a retail store, 70% belongs to 4 brands, 5 brands that own pretty much everything that is in there. So retailing and this concept of convenience goes in terms of saving time and so forth in the direction of the benefit of the customers. But as the power of this sort of this monopoly keeps on growing, the issue becomes that the customer is losing some power, because then they have less choices, and as they get less choices, they don't realize that the quality goes down for the price to stay up. And so that's a little bit the issue at one time, where people were buying mostly from Walmart, and they made Walmart so powerful. Then Walmart was sort of dictating a lot of different things. Then the world has changed, and now people are pretty much doing this with Amazon. And as Amazon keeps growing, their power keeps growing. And if you have organization whose power keeps growing, usually it goes against the benefits of the customers. So it's not something that customers see right away, but in the 20, 30, 40 years time, suddenly those big companies are able to buy the manufacturer, and then they don't have to work as hard in order to develop the brand, because they own the distribution. They start distributing the brands that they have ownership, and they reduce the quality of those brands, and those brands just becomes generic in some way. So the world of distribution is the world of the reality of business, where domination is very, very important, and retailing plays a major role. So when we talked about product line, that was the first subject after the first quiz. So that's where the second quiz will start. When we go back to the mix, and going back to the first of the mix is the product mix. And we talked about the concept of width of the product line, depth of the product line, and length of the product line. When we talk about a retailer, there's again those concepts that come back. So the breadth is actually the width. So there's a slight little differences in the words, where for when you talk about product line of a company as a manufacturer, it's the width, versus when you talk about a retailer, we're talking about the breadth. So the breadth equals the width when we talk about the product, but for the retailers, the depth is the same thing. So the breadth here, as an example, is we have the breadth of the shoes versus the appliances versus the music versus the clothing. So there's a breadth of 4. What is the depth? And the depth, here we have the CDs. That does not exist that much anymore, but the CDs will have classical, rock, jazz, and so we'll have 4 different genre of music, and we'll have different a depth of 4. So the breadth is, if you want, left to right, versus the depth is the same as the product, is top to bottom, with variation within the different product categories of the breadth. Supermarkets are organized in many different ways, or retail store, I should say. So all of these are not that difficult. In America, it's pretty common knowledge to know about these. What's a specialty store, department store, supermarket, convenience store, superstore, discount store, and warehouse clubs. So it's like if I say name 2 warehouse clubs, most people will name Sam's Club and Costco. So everyone is aware of these, and everyone is very knowledgeable when it comes to their supermarkets. But you just need to sort of review these because there may be a question. And the question may be, what's the difference between a supermarket and a hypermarket? Well, a hypermarket is just a gigantic supermarket. It's a supermarket multiplied by 2, 3, 4, where in fact it becomes like a mall. A mall is multiple stores versus a hypermarket is one store that just looks like a mall. Now, the concept of private label is very important. Why would companies have private labels? Well, what is a private label first? A private label is a brand which is owned by the distributor. So the distributor, instead of buying brands, the distributor is going to ask manufacturer to make a specific product under their brand. So they're going to buy chocolate from Nestle, from Hershey's, and eventually they're going to ask maybe a producer like Hershey's to make some chocolate for them. So these chocolates are going to be called Safeway Select brand. And it's a Safeway brand distributed by Albertsons and Vance. And it's their own brand. And it doesn't have a brand of chocolate. It's just under the umbrella of the distributor. What is the benefit of having a private label? Well, because when people go to the supermarket, they develop a relationship with the supermarket brand. And eventually they buy more and more from that brand. And eventually they develop a trust of that brand and a loyalty of that brand. The supermarket, their problem is they are not originally not selling anything of theirs. So they're selling other products. People go there mostly to get those brands that they like, and they are just conveniently going to the store which is next to them. Eventually, there is the relationship that they build with the brand and the distributor, the retailer. But there are retailers that want to also get some power over the brands that people are buying by saying, you know what, those brands are just not as important as us, the distributor, and we could be making also chocolate and shampoo and ice cream, and we could be making these as good as these people. And in fact, oftentimes they do because they ask those manufacturers to make their brands. So they rarely ask or allowed to ask the manufacturer which have the biggest market share. Oftentimes what they do is they ask the manufacturer that have a very small market share. So as a small market share, you have a very hard time doing the push and pull. Remember, push and pull, that's a lot of money. The more money you have, the more you can do push and pull. The less money you have, the less you can do it. So eventually what you become is a brand that constantly begs the retailers to carry the product, the distribution network to support you. So you have to constantly incentivize them, but you have little resources in order to incentivize them. So you beg and beg and beg and give away and give away. So eventually those retailers, they come and they say, hey, you know, I really like to carry your product, but nobody knows that much your product. So it is very difficult to carry your product. However, we would be more than happy to buy some of the product from you if you build this product under our specification, request or decision or selection, and then you put our brand on it. And in fact, during COVID-19, my cognac sales went very bad. During COVID-19, most of the people were buying the big brands. They were buying the 1 or 2 most famous brands of cognac, and they were not buying the small producer, which they were buying in 2019 and before. And in fact, more and more so, people were more and more interested and less interested in buying the big brands because they could see that these were mass produced and not as interesting. So they started buying the smaller brand. There was a total movement towards craft and family owned and small distillery and all that. So my brand was growing in a fast pace. Then COVID-19 came and people went home and didn't know what to do. And they were home pressing on their favorite app, buying just cognac from the cognac that was available. And so the one that was available was the big brand that had 80% of the market share. And that brand at the end of COVID had 95% market share because they just took over the whole industry. After COVID, it was very difficult to go back to business because those brands became so successful that they essentially took over the distribution of cognac over the United States. So then I said, what am I going to do right now? Because it's it takes a long time to recover these losses and losses of territory, if you want. And people had moved on and they were not specifically ready to go back to all look at and be curious about the small brands. So I ended up doing private labels, which is that there's a lot of distributors and in fact celebrities, and that's what I've been doing lately. Celebrity that says, "Oh, I want my own cognac." So I've been making cognac for many celebrities that most of you know, and they are not making it. They are just asking me to make it, and I make it, and then they sell it through their celebrity network and VIP events and all this. So I'm doing private label, which is just another type of business that you do as a manufacturer. The disadvantage is that your brand doesn't get to be seen. So I was what I did is purposely I ensured that all of the cognac that I make, even for this celebrity, mentioned that it was manufactured by me and my brand in the back. If you look at Trader Joe's, for example, they in the back, it doesn't say who's manufacturing it. It says, manufacturer under license by for Trader Joe's and sometimes it doesn't even say the country. It says for distribution in the USA, but it's made in Italy, or it's made in Germany, or it's made in Mexico, it's made somewhere else. So they seem to be trying as hard as they can to not show where is the origin of the product, which is to the disadvantage of the producer. And in my case, I try to not lose everything. But it's good business, it's good money, allows to pay your bills and survive. Private labels are very important. As I said, from a manufacturer perspective, it's one opportunity to be selling some products and keep paying your bills and keep the business running. It allows me to, in my situation, to increase the volume of production, which reduces my cost, which allows me to make my own brand in a cheaper way and increase my markup, my margins when I sell my normal products. So if I sell my normal products under 25%, because suddenly now I have an increased production, I'm making actually 28%, 29%. I sell less product, but I make a higher margin. So there's benefits in doing private label, but it's not perfect either. It has some disadvantage, like I said, because there's a little bit loss of control, because these are not your brand anymore. They are Trader Joe brands or Safeway brands or whatever brands. Now, looking at wholesaling, as I already started talking about it, it's the opposite of retailing. The idea is that you're selling products for people who are going to buy these products in order to resell those products, and or they're going to be using what they bought in the wholesale to transform it in order to resell it. So wholesalers are primarily not involved in retailing, and sometimes it's hard to understand because Costco is a wholesaler, but at the same time, it's also a retailer. If you have a membership card, you can go there and buy one chicken. You don't have to buy 25 chicken. But oftentimes when you go to Costco, you buy multiple toothpaste, and the idea is that you don't really need 25 toothpaste, but you were supposed to buy 25 because you're supposed to have the need for 25 toothpaste because you'll be reselling them and so forth. So some large wholesalers in America are also clubs, warehouse clubs, and they allow their members to get some discounts. What are the main reason and purpose of wholesalers? So it's selling and promoting, obviously, is buying and assorting the products. So they buy in large numbers, and then they buy from manufacturers. So they're going to be buying large numbers. A retailer rarely wants to buy a pallet. I mean, it depends on which retailer, but if I take the case of my cognac, on a pallet, you have like 600 bottles. A retailer is rarely buying 600 bottles from one supplier, from one brand. So they buy, just 2 cases, 3 cases. So they need to buy from someone that bulks break, and that's the role of the wholesaler, because the wholesaler, most of the time, is going to be buying 10 pallets. And these 10 pallets is going to break it down into 50 stores. And so then suddenly in those 50 stores, it's going to be 3 cases per store. And after 2 weeks, they have to rebuy 10 pallets. So it's very important to see the benefits of having wholesalers and having retailers. They do play a very important role. However, their role was much more important, I would say, before the internet. So before 1995, their role were central. I mean, they were necessary people. As the internet came, their role became less necessary, but it's still necessary today, but not as necessary. Probably was 98% necessary before the internet, because there were also a lot of ways of selling direct using catalogs and using your own sales team. You could sell direct to the customers, but it was slow and expensive. With the internet, it reduced the price and made it even better for the customers. So what else do? They also warehouse, they do the transportation, they buy your products, and that's very, very important that the wholesaler are buying your product because they buy a large quantity. So how many customers do I have in America? Real customers, people that pay my bills. I have 3, sometimes 5, sometimes 6, sometimes 2, depending on the month. So how many invoices do you do? Well, I don't do that much invoices just for the United States. I sell in between 12 and 16 countries, but just in the United States, every month I do 2, 3 invoices because I have 2, 3 wholesalers. But each one of these people buy a container, they buy 10 pallets, and each one of these containers is about $150,000. So these are my direct customers who buy the product, but then they break it down into the retailers, and then the retailers breaking down into thousands of customers. And so that's the order on how things get broken down. So financing is very important because when someone, gives you a check of $150,000, that's great. How much is a bottle of cognac? $40, let's say. So $40, you don't get rich from $40, but you get rich from $150,000. So the financing of the wholesaler is very important because they are the people that will give you the biggest check all the time. The retailers will be the second people that will give you the biggest check. And then the third is the consumers, that you need a lot of consumer support in order to bring back to the retailer and wholesaler. So financing is a very important element. I can't spend too much time on this, but risk bearing is also because they buy a large quantity, then they need to sell this large quantity. They take a risk in buying 1 pallet, 10 pallets, because then they need to really concentrate in selling it. They're not buying all kinds of things and then they accumulate and then they wonder what's going on. They need to have a plan. In fact, you don't want to sell to wholesalers that are themselves not very knowledgeable, but professional, specialized in selling, because you don't want a wholesaler to collect and stock and store. The more they collect and stock and store, the more that means they're not really good at selling, and the more they are not very good at selling, the less rotation you're going to have. So in my situation, I don't sell many of the same products. So it's not like the same product I renew. It's not like I'm selling, I don't know, batteries where they're sort of the same. The batteries from 2019 or 2016 or 2023 are the same. It's because my products every year, they are different. I don't want my, like the fashion industry, is you don't want people to sell the clothes right now from 2016 because people want the clothes from 2023 and soon buying the clothes from 2024 if they're not already buying it. So you want people to buy and sell. You want the product to move. So the risk bearing is very important. You give them a lot of stock, make sure that they move the stock. If they don't move the stock, if they sit on the stock, it's not very good because you're not going to be able to launch some new product in this market. And so I have a distributor in Los Angeles right now, and that's a little bit the problem, is not moving the products enough. So therefore, I'm not able to sell them the 2024, for example, collection of new cognacs because they're still working on the 2022. So I didn't even give them the 2023 because they're still working on the 2022. So they're not going to get the 2023. They're not going to get the 2024. So I'm hoping they can sell out the 2022 so I can start maybe talking to them about the 2025. Just think about the car industries. When you go to the dealer in November 2023, and then in November 2023, you see that they're still selling the 2022 Ford. That's a big problem. So you want dealers to take the risk, but to move the product. So they collect information, they know your customers, they manage your customers. So that's very important, and that's a primary role. Now, when you look at the wholesalers, there's the merchant wholesalers, which are the wholesaler that's going to be buying all of this product and having ownership. That's sort of common sense. Then you have the manufacturer sales branch, which is the manufacturer is also acting as a wholesaler. And then you have the broker. So the broker, unfortunately, I don't have too much time to discuss about this, but it's very interesting and important. In fact, I believe this is the best type of job that you can have. I ask you, how do you get rich? And you think you can get rich? Who wants to get rich? And a lot of people want to get rich, but having been in business since the early 90s, I can tell you that the fastest, most reliable way to get rich is becoming a broker. So a lot of people are going to say, oh, broker, is that like a real estate broker? Well, that's one type of broker. Insurance broker, oh, that's another type of broker. And what about a finance and banking, stock market broker and all that? These are brokers, the one that everybody knows, but you could become a broker in cheese. You could become a broker in electricity. You could become a broker in diamonds. You could become whatever broker you are. These are the people that makes the most money most of the time. One of the benefits of the broker, which is great, is you do not have to buy any of the product. You just act as an intermediary between the manufacturer and the wholesalers or the retailers. So what it is it's someone that knows people. They know who are the best manufacturers. They go to trade shows. They know every suppliers. They know the strengths and weaknesses of every one of these suppliers, and then they get a reputation to be in charge and with the people who buy. So you could be, for example, a broker for Walmart. So Walmart gets hundreds of thousands of people trying to sell products to Walmart every month, probably. And so they can't be seeing all of these people. Walmart doesn't have enough staff. So they rely on brokers. Number of people who are specialized, maybe a toy broker is someone who's really specialized in toys. And if anytime these people have really something really good, they talk to the toy buyer of Walmart and they say, I really have something very good. If they do this every day, the toy Walmart buyer is not going to talk to them because it's not possible. But when these people call, they know it's something really good, so they pay attention. The people in those big businesses, it's not like they are lazy. They only have 24 hours a day, and they have to rely on some people who are sort of hunting for them for the best deals. And then when they come, if they are really good brokers, they only come with good deals. So brokerage is really good. What's difficult about brokerage? Well, the number one most difficult thing is having honest people. A lot of not dishonest brokers, having brokers that really wake up in the morning and go to bed early and work and are consistent. Most brokers are not consistent. And having those relationships, building those relationships, it takes a long time to build relationship with trust and expertise and professionalism and ethics. It takes a very long time. So there is maybe 10 years that you have to invest in being just working on building this network for people to start to know you. And then when they need something, they call you and they say, oh, could you do this? And you do it 1 time, 2 times, 3 times. And once you've done it successfully with a bunch of people, then you just come and say, that's who I've done what, and this is the result. And I can do it again and again and again. And people want to save time more than even money. The people that just want to save money, that they're not the best, but the people that want to save time and go straight to success are the one that will pay the best and get the things done. So brokers is a type of wholesaler, and it's one of the best type. What are the trends in wholesaling is the fact that there's less and less wholesalers because there's more and more people that buy directly from the manufacturers. The fact that there are retailers more involved in wholesaling. So retailers are saying, you know what, why don't we buy large quantities? I was telling you, a retailer doesn't buy a pallet, a retailer buys a few cases. So now they say, hey, why don't we buy 10 pallets? We buy the container ourselves as a group of retailer, and that way we can save. Because the wholesaler, so what's the industry margin overall in America? So you could say, if a manufacturer sells 100, the wholesaler is going to make 20 to 25. So suddenly the product is 125. And then the retailer is going to make 50%. So now this product is $300. So then what the retailer likes to do is to sell it less to compete with the other retailers. So what they do is they buy directly from the manufacturer for 100. And now, because they do 50, they can sell it for 200. So instead of selling it for, 275, now they can sell it for 200 and they still make a 50% margin, and therefore they become much more competitive. So that's what retailers are doing. Should we reduce our prices? No, we should get rid of the wholesalers. That way we can increase lower our prices of the price that we pay. It's better for their cash flow, and it's better because that way they can become competitive without reducing their margins. Wholesalers will continue to increase their services. Well, yes, because I just told you, wholesalers, they like you to buy in large quantities. So, for example, if you're making clothing, and usually you buy a mile. So like a mile of material is a lot of money, because to make these clothes, you need to buy 6 of these. So it's 6 miles multiplied by $25, $30, blah, blah, blah. That's a large amount of money. So what you do is you say, no, I would like 2 things. One, you to increase my services in selling me in smaller quantities, not a mile, but 200 yards. So it's like 5 times less. And 2 is I can only get delivery of 100 yards, and I want you to keep the other 100 yards. So they increase the services because they're doing some warehousing and they are selling you in other quantities. What's the future as well of what they're doing is they're starting to not be just an American wholesaler, but trying to be a wholesaler for other countries. So wholesalers for Mexico or for Asia or for Europe and so forth. Now we're going to look at the issue, the last P that I want to discuss, which is the P of communication, but really it's the P of promotion. So remember, the 4 Ps is product, price, place, and promotion. Product is the goods that you're selling, the services that you're selling, all of the generic terms. The price is the idea that you need to be making some money. How do you make some money? Do you have a margin? Looking at the value, the break even, the competitor analysis, price skimming, price penetration pricing, all of these. The promotion is the communication, and the place is the distribution that we just discussed. So what are the 5 methods of communication? Is you have advertising, public relations. So advertising is selling at a price. So it's selling with a known brand. So when you receive advertising, you know it's advertising. It's not information. It's someone proclaiming something and being portrayed as positively as possible. Public relations is the concept of looking at the image, looking at the information that you're creating, making sure that you control the pluses and minuses of your company in terms of its corporate image and social responsibility and so forth. Direct marketing is the idea that you may be having a database that you use in order to sell your product. So you have a database such as the address, the email, the phone number of your customers, the social media somehow that you use in order to send information, and you try to send an information to someone in hope that they receive it and that they react to it. Sales promotion is people that are going to be on the ground trying to directly speak to the customers. They may be using the direct marketing methods, but they will be salespeople in the back. So it's not as automated. It's more of a person speaking to a person. And personal selling is connected to this, is you have people on the ground selling. So sales promotion is you organizing an incentive that you're going to talk about. This incentive goes through the direct marketing or goes through the personal selling. So all of these 5 things are connected. And then you have a 6 promotion mix, which is digital marketing. So the digital marketing is using the internet to sell, using the social media to sell, using the application for people to use the application in order to buy the product. So that's the 6 methods of communication. Digital marketing is missing from the pie, the green pie. So what's communication? Communication is someone has a message and sending it to the consumer. In between, you have a message, you have the message sending, you have the message reception, and you have the medium that is used in order to convey this message. So the medium will be, do you use the radio? Do you use TikTok? Do you use the TV? Do you use cable? Do you use a magazine? What do you use? Obviously, different medium have different results. Depending on who you're talking to and the message you want to give. Maybe sometimes the radio is better, and maybe sometimes Instagram is better, or Facebook is better. It's someone older, you go on Facebook, someone younger, you go on TikTok. So all of this is very important. Is who am I talking and what's the best media to talk to these people? The idea is that first, who are your customers? So that's the same for everything, for the pricing, for the product, for the distribution. And second is, what are you trying to do to them? Do they know about the product? Awareness. How much do they know about the product? Do they like it, not like it? Is it something that they consider important? Have they bought before? When you send a message, you think about the content, the structure, and the format. So the content is, should it be funny? Should it be, should it have maybe sex? Should it be something that talks about the pros and cons? So that's the content. The structure is, where should the argument be? Should it be at the beginning? Should it be at the end? Should there be a conclusion that we tell the people, or should we let them think about the conclusion and the format? Should it be a lot of words? Should it be lots of images? So that's important, because sometimes some people understand more words. Sometimes people want more words. Maybe if you're selling medical product like a vaccine, is you want more words versus less images. But maybe if you're selling perfume, you want more images for perfume and less words. So depending on who you're selling and what you're selling, it has an impact. So they appeal. What appeals can you use? You can use a status to talk about people's ego, the fact that they're going to be looking richer, more intelligent. You could use comparative. Maybe there's a brand that they like, but you tell them that that brand is 20% not as good based on some consumer rating or something. You can use sex. Sex is good for appeals because it gets people attention. The problem with sex is oftentimes it gets people attention on the message, but not so much on the value of the message. So people will look at a message because there is a sex appeal, but they won't remember much, and they won't really, it's going to catch too much of their attention and sort of distract them. It becomes more of a distraction. And that's the problem of humor as well. Humor and sex are distraction. It's entertaining, and it makes the communication, the ad, less boring, but less effective in terms of memorization. It's kind of sad. And then fear is another way of getting people to do things, is they will do it because they don't want to miss out, or they don't want to get hurt. And so these are different appeals that you can use. Here's some examples of ads. So this is a Red Bull, and here you get people to see not anything that has to do with Red Bull, but just some kind of artistic view. Here you have a car ad, and here you see nothing but something pretty. So it's just simple and nice. And here you have a product where they try to explain what the product does. So it's a cream for when you have a rash on your bottom. And so they try to get the message, and you see the paste, and then you see someone's rear, and you see a flame, and you get it together. This is a very old ad because I think it's from the mid-60s, but these ads at the time won best ads in the world. And in today's standard, they're still amazing in terms of what you should not do, and yet they did it. And that's why it was so amazing, because they, for example, created a lot of space, empty space. So normally when you buy a page in a magazine, the last thing you want is empty space because it's so expensive. In this situation, they played with this and made sure the car was really small in order to surprise people. And then the message was that it makes your house look bigger. You have to imagine back in the mid-60s, the cars in the United States were very big, and the Volkswagen Beetle appeared too small, and so small that it made no sense, and it looked like there was something wrong with you for wanting something so small. So therefore, they play with that image and say it doesn't have to be big. And in fact, the fact that you have a small car makes, a lot of other things can be bigger and makes them even look bigger and so forth. So they played with this. We see that was a very successful car. These were very successful ads. Here's another car ad, but that's very different, where what you try to do is you try to show that the product can be used in different situations. They're showing that this is a car that could be used for traveling and holidays and visiting and so forth. So it's more of a country type of situation, the mountains, but it could also use in a sophisticated environment. And so they do this because they force you to visualize multiple things, and it's just a sort of make you process more information than versus just one images. So which media should you choose? Should you choose a personal communication channel, non-personal? The idea is, if you use a person, is it better than just an ad in a magazine? The problem is the personal communication method, someone speaking to someone else, is the most efficient, meaning that it's the most persuasive. Someone listen to someone is most likely to be persuaded that way than versus many different ads one after another. However, a person cannot speak to too many people as much as a message can be. A message can be sent to thousands, hundreds of thousands, millions of people versus one person to person. This just takes a long time. So there's pros and cons. Do you want to communicate to a lot of people at once? Yes, use the Super Bowl. And that's expensive, but it's still the best return on investment, because for the number of people you're going to talk in within 20 seconds, nobody can do that. However, you want to sell something that people don't want to buy, like, I don't know, life insurance. It's much better to sell this through a person. Now, when you talk about persuading people, you talk about in terms of the credibility. So the credibility of the source is very important. So people speaking to each other and word of mouth is the #1 marketing method. It's the best marketing method, but marketers do not control word of mouth. I mean, they can when in fact they pay influencers to act and generate word of mouth. And that's one very common way, and obviously has been even more successful with social media, which has created all of this fake news where people believe the word of mouth that people are actually being paid to say. But they still, the credibility is what was the source of this word of mouth. So if you have a mechanic, a professional, like a car racer that talks about tires, that has better credibility than if it's a top model. A top model will get attention, but has no expertise. So the level of expertise is very important. And the past experience with the brand is very, very important. What's interesting to see as well is the type of communication that you have. For example, sponsoring versus advertising. So sponsoring will be a brand which is exhibited, displayed at a sport event, for example, would have a greater impact in people believing that this brand is not advertising versus advertising. So advertising is really seen as being the most biased, the least trustworthy. Sponsoring is perceived as being higher in trustworthiness. The same thing with non-profit organization communicating are perceived as being more authentic, more trustworthy than for-profit organization. So you can imagine that a non-profit sponsoring, that's kind of the best way versus a for-profit advertising, that's kind of the worst way in getting trustworthiness. So for a for-profit, you would want to do sponsoring as much as you can, so to mitigate, to balance out the fact that advertising will be lower. And that's why they do this. How do you measure the success of a communication campaign? Well, it's measured by communication effects and the sales effect. We see the sales effect is the most obvious. You don't advertise, then you advertise, and then your sales go up. Normally, that would mean it's because you advertise. But formula to measure the effect of advertising, so that has not been created yet. It does not exist. It's just a common sense thing that says, if I advertise, I get more sales. And that's how advertisers sell advertising, is the more you advertise, the more you're going to sell. The only issue is we don't really know exactly. If I increase my advertising by 10%, do I get 10% more advertising sales? Well, sometimes you increase by 10% and you don't really know if that improves your sales. You just know that you spent some money. So like right now, I don't have any, I'm not running any magazine ads this month. How much is a magazine ads? Well, depends on the magazine, but let's say it's $8,000. So if I put an $8,000 ad, am I going to sell more products? Am I even going to get back $8,000 of return? Probably not. So what does it mean? Well, it means that you probably have to do 15 ads a month, and it will be taking you 2 years before these ads actually aggregate to have built your brand. So there's a huge investment in advertising that needs to happen for the advertising to have any effect. However, communication success is not just measured by the sales, it's also measured by the effect of communication. So people, do they remember the ad? Do they remember having seen it? Do they remember what the ad said? Did they learn something from the ad? That's something that you can measure, because you can say the more people remember the ad, the more people know something that they didn't know because of the ad, the more likely they will buy the product. And it's true. Familiarity with the brand increases the chance for people to buy this brand. So what are the way you set the budget of communication? First is affordable. How much can I afford? I can afford 1,000 per week. So that's your budget. The percentage of sales, I want to increase my sales by 20%. So you increase your budget by 20%. Objective on task is you look at what do you want to succeed. So I want to sell 10% more of this product, and I want 2 times more people to know about this product. So what you're going to have to do is multiply by 2 the things you know to increase the awareness, and by 20% the things that you do to increase the sales of this product. So the objective on task is sort of the most cause and effect. And then the competitive parity is you try to see how much your competitors are doing. So if you see where they advertise, and you try to advertise in the same place. Now let's talk about public relation and advertising. So first, sales promotion. So sales promotion is a method that tries to create incentives in order to increase sales at a specific time. People may be borderline to buy the product. Now there's an incentive, they want to buy the product. Or people may not know about your product, then they see this incentive. You know, I don't know this brand, but you can get 2 toothpaste for the price of 1 just this week. I used to buy another brand, Crest, and now it's you know, Fresh, another brand that is being receiving sales promotion. So it makes you try a new product to take advantage of this. So what are the type of promotions? You have the samples, the coupons, the refunds, the free products, and so forth. Some rewards, some contests, games, and so forth. There's many of them. There is the promotion to persuade the retailer to carry more product. There's a promotion to persuade the consumers to buy more product. There's a promotion to try to get more product being displayed inside the store. The promotion where they would take your product and put it inside their catalogs, put it in the front of their website. The idea is you want them to promote your product. So for example, this month and starting next week, I gave a big discount to an online website, which is going to put my brand on the first page. And also they're going to send emails to people reminding them to buy cognac for the holidays. And they're going to say, and these are the 4 cognacs that we recommend. The cognacs that they're going to recommend are the ones that gave them a discount. So I gave them a discount for them to promote my cognac. What is the discount? The discount is essentially my margin. So every product that they will be buying from me for this month, from this online website, I won't make any money. They're going to make some money, but I won't make any money because I give them the discount, which is my margin. Why would you do that? Well, because I don't see it as sales. I see it as a promotion. I see it as an advertising, because they will be pushing my brand and people will know about my brand through their website. Okay, so the idea of discount is very important because it gets the trade to want to carry your product. If you do this to everyone, you not going to make any money. But if you sell your product the highest price and you pay for the advertising, you're going to lose the money from the advertising. So you lose the money from taking 20% from your sales to pay for the advertising, or you give 20% to the distributors, the retailers, the online store, to sell your product. At the end, you didn't make money either way, but the difference is, one, advertising, you don't know if you sell, versus the distributor, the retailer. If they sell, you know that they sell. You still have money. You receive money, you pay your bills. Versus advertising is you don't receive money, you just paid an invoice that they sent you. Okay. So allowances is in that situation where you give them maybe free product. So that way you say, I gave you $1,000 free product, which is like $1,000. So I contributed. They come to you and they say, I want $1,000 to contribute for the season holidays, or maybe to participate to a trade show. You give them free products. When they sell these free products, they will be making money, which is equal. giving free product is cheaper than $1,000 because $1,000 it's the same amount for everyone. $1,000 in Chile or $1,000 in Ireland is $1,000. Versus when you give them product that is worth $1,000 to them, it didn't cost you $1,000. Maybe it cost you $500, $600. So you give them $600. So giving free product, free product is always cheaper than giving the equivalent in dollar value. So as I said, you give them incentives so they carry your product for different events, different catalogs, different things that they will be taking advantage of. So developing a sales program is you have to think about the incentive. Should it be 5%? Should it be 10%? Should it be for a month? Should it be for a week? Should it be for everyone? Should it be just for a group of people? And then when you give this sales promotion, every time you give a discount, every time you have a campaign, you need to really measure before, during, and after. And then you can compare year after year, month after month. It is very important to collect data and not just do things and let it run. The more you try to measure the effectiveness of your actions, the better it is. That way you can make better decisions and fine-tune in the future. Now let's talk about public relations. So public relations involve building good relationship with the company's various publics by having favorable publicity, building good corporate image, and handling the not so favorable rumors, stories, and events that may be occurring. So public relation people are part of marketing. And oftentimes these are people that either were marketing people that went into public relations, or they were journalists, people creating content that went towards a more commercial type of business where they became public relations. So meaning the journalist of a company specifically. So those journalists of a company, they were called public relation people, 20 years ago. And then they became people in charge of the internet. And now they became the people in charge of the social media. That's sort of the most common thing. You work in social media, you're pretty much in public relations. You work in marketing, very sooner or later, you're going to be part of the relationship because you're going to have to take care of the social media. So as a PR person in a company, you work at developing a relationship with other media. You create the information so you can give it to the media. You talk to the public. You also try to understand the different trends and government situation and try to lobby these. You also talk to investors. So you create the information for investors, you invest investors, you give information to them, and you organize events. So speech, written materials, video that you create, charity things that you have. I mean, the big trend I see is people having, goats or whatever. Or, a lot of people in my industry, they have bees. So they make cognac and bees. They make cognac and goat milk. And they do all of this because they want to try to show that they're very environmentally friendly and they're part of the ecosystem. And so they are participating in nature and balancing maybe the waste that they may be creating by having balances of goods and bads that they may be doing because they create carbon and all that. So all of this, it's part of the annual report, part of the corporate image that your company wants to have, and in contents that you're trying to create to tell the world, to tell your customers that you are being a company which is responsible. So as a PR person working in the promotion of the promotion mix, is you need to define your target, you need to define your objectives, and you need to implement your plans and evaluate your plans. Last one is, what is advertising? Advertising is any paid form of non-personal presentation and promotion of ideas, goods, or services by an identified sponsor. So what's important here is who is paying is recognized, and it's clear who is paying for this ad. This ad is not free, and it's clear that it's not for everyone, but the company, the brand being displayed. When you talk about media selection, you talk about the reach, is how many targets will actually see my ad. So this magazine, you're going to have this many thousand people that of your target that will see it. This magazine, you're going to have 50,000, so 5 times more. That one is 5 times more expensive, and that one is 5 times cheaper. But you could also use this media. So the reach is very important. The frequency is the number of times that they will see it. And the media impact is what difference, is it going to change their mind? How much does it change their mind? There's different media that change more or less their mind. And that's why the social media became big, is because they had a huge, more so at the beginning than now, but still now, is this impact that they had. People see it on the social media, they believe it's true. Sort of the same thing that happened 10 years ago. If it's on the internet, it must be true. Obviously now we all aware of fake news and all this. So constantly you need to reinvent new media in order to get people engaged and make sure that they believe. So the major, seven major advertising media are the TV, radio, magazine, newspaper, internet, then the outdoor communication media such as the billboard and the social media. Now, very quick, this is not even in the textbook, but that's something that you should know. When you talk about advertising, they have something called an advertising plan. However, in advertising, they don't call it an advertising plan. So if you work in advertising and you say, oh, where is the advertising plan? They would know right away that you're not a person who is specialized in advertising because you're using the wrong term. So what is the term that they use if they don't use an advertising plan? Well, an advertising plan is the common person name for what's called a copy strategy. So in marketing, it's called a marketing plan. And in advertising, it's called a copy strategy. So does it make a big deal? Yeah, well, of course it does, because if you speak to an advertiser and you start talking about the copy strategy, and only you and the advertiser will know, you will appear in the room as the only person that you know what you're talking about. What's inside a copy strategy? So I believe I put this in the slides for you to study, but it's very detailed. It doesn't have, you don't have to know, this is for your own knowledge. Now, to finish this, let's look at, for advertising, let's look at what are the three directions of an ad. Either the ad is focused on the product, the ad is focused on the performance, so you look at the bottom of the slide, or the ad is focused on the universe. So message focused on the product is they really show and show the product, and it's a nice picture with the product being very visible, entirely visible. The performance is how does it work, what can you get out of it, and the universe is who's using it, where is it used. So some example, here's one. So we see a car. Is it focused on the performance, the universe, or the product? This is focused on the product. You only see the car. Now, it's a Coke on the side, and it says the party starts here, so you can imagine that this is the evening. Does it focus on the product? Well, we can see the bottle, but we don't see the bottle very well. It seems to be more than just the product. Is it the performance? Well, the party starts here. There's some kind of feeling that it's going to be hot and warm and dancing and fun. It's true, there's some performance, but really it's the universe. It's the universe of the evening, the atmosphere, and so forth. Here's an ad for a Volkswagen Golf. It's a car. So you can't see the car, so it's not the product. You can't see the universe, who's using it, where it's used. Therefore, this one is definitely the performance, because it's the, what's the name? Optometer, or the dial is showing you that it says, etc., etc., etc. So it's a car that's going to be reliable. So it's the performance. And here is you have McDonald's, and it says official restaurant of the NHL. So here it shows you that it's an ad that definitely is focusing on the fact that you're going to smile. So it's the atmosphere. It's not the performance. You know, it's tasty for McDonald's, or it's not the product, because we don't see the burger. It's more the atmosphere. Now, the last thing that I want to talk about, and it's very much a pure review, it's what's called the competitive strategies. So the competitive strategies has nothing really new. And it's something that I've recovered many, many times, and I sent you many, many slides, and you had to work very, very hard on it in order to do the report, which is, what are the strategies? What are the basic strategies? And like I said so many times, there are 4 basic strategies that everyone should know, which are these: market penetration, product development, market development, diversification. So these are the 4 basic strategies. I would say cover 65% maybe of all the strategies. And then you have other competitive strategies, such as overall cost leadership, focus, differentiation, middle of the road. You've seen it many times. Also product leadership, customer intimacy, operation and excellence. You've seen it many times. And market leader, market challenger, market follower, nicher, and all that. You've seen it many times. What's important with this is to understand that there's an order. What's the strategy? Well, strategy is first you think about the objectives, then the strategies, and then the tactics. So there is the objective is the broad target that you have with numbers. We want to increase the sales by 25% within the next 12 months. What would be the strategy? The strategy could be to sell more products or the same products in the same markets. That's market penetration. And what should we do in terms of tactics? Well, why don't we decrease our prices? Why don't we increase the number of places that we sell the product? These are your tactics. So it's important to understand this because this is relationship marketing. It's understanding that customers will buy what they know. And the concept of relationship marketing is you want to make sure that you understand the long-term benefit of satisfying the customers. So what do? You understand the needs, you create the product, you deliver the product, and you satisfy their needs. They're satisfied, they come back and buy again and again and again and again. Customer satisfaction is selling a product that meets people's expectation, so that way they want to buy again and again and again. They come back. You may not make a lot of money, but you make a lot of money in the lifetime relationship you have with these customers. So marketing is about 4 Ps: the product, the price, the place, and the promotion. Marketing as a plan, it's called the marketing plan. And when you want to succeed, you really try to understand the SWOT. The SWOT based on external components, such as the opportunity and the threats, and internal components, such as the strengths and weaknesses. What are the best sources in order to identify opportunities and threats? Well, your micro and macro environment, because in these, you will find the elements that will become threats and opportunities. The threats are mostly coming from your competitors. Is who are the competitors? And in order to understand your competitors, you do what's called benchmarking, which is to identify their strengths and weaknesses, assess these, and see what strategies, what customers, what direction that they're taking. And pretty much, this is it. This is the whole shambang that I've been trying to teach you since the beginning of the semester. Is objective, strategies, and tactics. Strategies come from the opportunities. You use those opportunities to derive some strategies, and then you explain some tactics. And that's what you've done for today. You've created a report which talks about the SWOT, the strategies, and your recommendation. And at the same time, you talk about the problems that you identify, and then the critical success factors, which is what you think in a high level is critical for the business in order for this business to succeed. So what will you have, just to conclude, in the final? So in the final, you need to study the subject of what's a product and a brand. So that was just after the quiz 1, we started talking about this. This was the first P of the 4 Ps. Then we talked about new product development, which is just one of the strategy. Market penetration, new product development, diversification, and market development. New product development is very important. It's how do you create new products? What are the 8 stages of creating a new product? ID generation, ID selection, new product, and all of this until you have commercialization. So you need to review this. You need to understand what are the pricing methods and the pricing strategies, the distribution with the different strategies for distribution, what's retailing, what's well selling, what's the concept of integrated marketing communication, which is you can't have just advertising or you can't have just social media. You need to have a brand, and this brand needs to be using different channels, and the different channel needs to have a consistent message across. What's advertising, a non-paid form of with a clear identified brand. Sales promotion is creating incentives, short-term incentives to get short-term results. What's PR? PR is goodwill. It's working on favorable images and corporates and creating content. And what's the competitive strategies? Is the basic strategies that you need to know in order to be able to compete in this market, looking at strategies from a high level. The quiz is next week online, same thing as the first quiz, nothing different.